looking forward to this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
I know. I think it'll be great. It'll be exciting to see how everybody feels about it now that it's out.
I know. It's kind of one of these things that you try so hard to get it out, and then when it comes out, it's almost surreal. You're like, I hope it's received well.
Yeah. Put lots of your heart and soul into it.
You do.
So
You have to kind of develop thick skin, too, because, you know, sometimes you just never know how stuff's going to be received.
Oh, yeah.
But this one, we've been getting really good comments, which has been good. So, okay. I think, are we live? Awesome. Okay. Welcome. Thank you for joining us on a very special YouTube live event. I have my amazing daughter-in-law, Jana Lee, who is, I couldn't do this without her or without Austin, so I'm so very grateful for them. And it looks like we already have some people here, which we're pretty excited about. So should we go ahead and tell them how we're going to work everything today?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, you said it's a special event. Why don't you tell us why it's a special
event
the gun today?
Here. Okay, guys, we are celebrating the launch of False Illusions. I am so excited about this. It is one of my books in the Honeysuckle Island Series, and as I was leading up to it, I kept telling everybody, this one's a doozy. And then, of course, that rose all the pressure because I had to make it a doozy. And I hope I succeeded. But we'll be talking a little bit more about that. So thank you for joining us. We're doing it a little bit different. I usually read chapters of Kisses Over Candlelight, and we thought we'd break with tradition just this one time and do this. So it's kind of exciting.
But you'll be back next week for your next chapter.
Yes, and I'll be reading chapter 7 next week as normal.
So we're going to do something a little bit different. For this one, we're going to put everybody that comments, we're going to put your name in this website that I use all the time. I am a 5th grade teacher, and so I use this website all the time to randomly select my students for different things. It's called Wheel of Names. So anyone that comments will get entered into that drawing, and 2 people will win an ebook copy of Book 2 in your Honeysuckle Island series, The Fragile Truth. Those winners will be announced at the end, so stick around to find out if you are a winner.
Yes, and it looks like we've got some comments already.
Yeah.
Should we kind of look at some of those? Cheryl Arsaman said, I am here. Hello, y'all. Cheryl, thank you for telling me how to pronounce your name. I feel like I have been butchering it, and so I was really excited. Let's see, we have Wendy Voidle. She says, so excited. Thanks for doing this. You are amazing. Thank you. I do this because I love interacting with y'all. I always tell Jenna Lee that this is my favorite part, is being able to interact with all of you. Paula says, hey, y'all. Diana says, happy Thursday. Lynette gives us a clappy hands emoji. Let's see. Oh, we got one from Kim Cray. Kim is one of my amazing author friends, and thank you, Kim, for tuning in. She says, hello, beautiful woman. So excited about your new release. Thank you. Kim actually has a new release today, too. She has a new rom-com, so it was fun to kind of share this day with her.
Yeah.
So, and then let's see. Tanya says, yay, I made it.
Christine Kersey commented also.
Oh, Christine, too. This is, see, she keeps me straight. This is Christine is another wonderful author friend of mine. Thank you, guys. I thought it would be so much fun for them to chime in. Christine says, hello, Jen. So excited for your new release. Thank you. It's so much fun. I love sharing this journey with my amazing author friends. We really lift and inspire each other, and I hope you guys, I'm sure you all read their books too, because they're really good. Let's see. Oh, Cindy, got one from Cindy. Cindy Rowland Anderson. She says, love you, Jen. I'm so excited to read your new book. Thank you. Cindy recently moved from Utah, and we are missing her already. And I'm so glad that you could tune in. Thank you. So let's see. Who else would we have?
So you have Charlotte Clark saying hello all from Georgia.
Oh, hello. So, Charlotte, I guess I don't sound funny to you. I know out west I sound like I, have the accent. I remember it when I was at BYU, Hawaii, one girl one time sat down beside me and my roommate and said, so it stuck like glue, so for better or worse. This is why I have a hard time, y'all, doing all the accents. People say that a British accent is similar to Southern, but I don't hear it, so I can't do it. But yes. Okay, so Okay, we wanted to let y'all know that Chasing Whispers, the first book in the series, is free today on Amazon. So be sure and grab your copy of that. And if you haven't had a chance to start reading the series, this is a great way to get started for free. So yeah, take advantage of that. And so, okay. Also, one person is going to win a $10 Amazon gift card. This is something that I do specially for my newsletter subscribers. So to get your name in this drawing, make sure you can, there's a link at the bottom, so make sure you get in on that. And we have so much fun with the newsletter. I love it.
There will be a link. But where else can they find that newsletter?
Oh, that's a good idea. Okay. You can also find it at jenniferyoungblood.com. So there will be, but if there's not right this moment.
Yes.
Big shout out to Austin. It's really a lot to pull this together, isn't it?
Yes.
And he always does so much behind the scenes, so we appreciate him. So okay, so let's see here. What do we want to do next? Do we want to go ahead and do the happy birthday?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so we thought it would be fun to do a happy birthday. I know I see this a lot on Bookstagram, and a lot of my amazing reviewers and beta readers have wished my book a happy birthday.
Yes.
And so I was like, you know what? That's a really neat concept. So we decided to have a little birthday party. Now, there is one little condition. I'll get you to hold this.
Yes.
So those of you who know me know that I have to eat a certain way. So instead of having a big cake, I thought we would do fruit. And I want to do this without getting this all over Jana-Lee. So this is a happy birthday to False Illusions, and I probably shouldn't sing to him, should I? They might say,
we'll let them sing at home.
Yeah, they may say, this is why you need to write and not sing. And I don't know, let's see. So maybe let's trade. Do you know how to let this?
Yes,
okay.
I do. If it works. It
if
might
it
not
works,
work.
yeah.
There we go.
Good, okay. Now we just don't want to set off the smoke alarm.
We want it to stay lit with the...
Okay, yeah, with the fan.
Yes.
Okay, so happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, False Illusions. Okay, should I blow it out? Okay. Awesome. Okay. So it is officially the first year anniversary of False Illusions. So
Yes.
I like that concept. It's kind of neat. And we
Yes.
get to eat this. We get to eat this afterwards too. So yes, wish we could share it with you. So.
Oh yeah, because it's Honeysuckle Island. So even though there's not honeysuckle
that's a good
in it,
yeah. That's a good point.
it's
Okay,
even better. I'll set
that's
this over
right.
here.
Okay. So let's go ahead. I wanted to answer just a few more of these wonderful comments. Kim Cray says, wow, love all the freebies. How cool. Thank you, Kim. It's really fun. We enjoy it. And Cheryl says, I have the first 3 of Honeysuckle Island series, so this is super exciting. Good. So you're all ready to get caught up on this one, which is really fun. Okay, Wendy says, happy book day. Oh, that's a great way to say this. Happy book day. I love that. Awesome. That's a good way to say it. Happy book day. Yeah, I'm learning all sorts of new terms, which is good. You would think as long as I've been writing that I would know these, but I don't. So it's good to have these.
Yeah, I feel like there's always new ones popping up, trending topics on Instagram. So
I think so too.
We're going to use that now, though.
Yeah, happy book day. That's
Yes.
a really good one. Thank you. I like that. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to read an excerpt, and I'm curious to know, you should chime in and let me know how many of you have already started reading this. I know a lot of people have read the first several in the series. I kind of tried to write these as standalones, but of course it is better if you can just read them all in order, because they do all go together and you'll recognize a lot of the characters. But you wouldn't be completely lost if you just started on this one, because I do a little bit of refreshing without getting monotonous for the people who have already read it. So I kind of try to walk a fine line with that.
Why don't you, before you do that, talk about what inspired the Honeysuckle Island series? Because if people don't know, and the suspense that you try to put in these books.
Okay.
And talk about, like, the story that you shared with me after you finished writing this one.
Oh, yes. Okay. Okay, so I wanted to do something. I started out, when I first started out writing, I started out where it would take me several years to craft a book. and I would just, you know, live it and breathe it, and I would put so much into it and so much depth, and then I started, you know, more going into the commercial where I, you know, was writing a little bit faster, and still felt like I was putting a lot into it, but I kind of was just craving going back to my roots, and so that's what I wanted this series to be about. I wanted it to be a combination of women's fiction, but I also wanted to add in the suspense. I mainly wanted to do what I feel like I'm the best at, which is suspense. They always say, write what you know, write what you love. I am always reading suspense. I love it, and so it would make sense that I would do that. Okay, so my husband and I went on a vacation with some friends of ours, and we went to Myrtle Beach, and we had a really good time. But, you know, for those of you who have been to Myrtle Beach, it's really pretty. It's a beach, but after a day or two, you're like, okay, what else are we going to do? And so Patrick, my husband, he got busy doing his research, and he found this island that we were in South Carolina, but it's really close. It's in North Carolina technically, but it's really close to the South Carolina line, and it's called Bald Head Island. And so we went on an excursion there, and I was just blown away because you take a ferry out, and it's just this little, I mean, it looks like this little village, and it's the quaintest thing I think I've ever seen. And everyone drives these electric golf carts. The only vehicles allowed are utility vehicles and police vehicles. And so it just kind of got me thinking, and I was like, okay, I have got to read this.
Yeah.
And then there was also, I started researching Bald Head Island, and there was a police officer who was killed. And I don't really know the background behind that as much, but that kind of started getting my mind going about the suspense.
Yeah.
And thinking about that.
The ideas just churning in your mind.
And so when I was writing False Illusions, so I ended up doing this marathon right to finish it, where I wrote the last 68 pages all in one day. It was crazy. And I stayed up until 2:40 in the morning, and I had my favorite writing spot, which is in my basement, and I was down in the basement, I mean, pretty much loopy, trying to finish this. And I was just like, okay, I get to the point to where it takes me a lot to get into the story, and I'm like, I'm in the zone, I'm just going to finish. I don't care what time it is. And that was kind of the state where I was. And so I finished, and I look over, and we have, our youngest son has this big teddy bear, it's about this big, named Toasty. The cutest little teddy bear you've ever seen. And we just kind of have him propped up on one of the couches. And I looked over, and that teddy bear freaked me out because it looked like it was looking at me. And I really did get freaked out, and I'm like, okay, it's time for me to go to bed. But that was kind of funny because the book was so suspenseful that I was freaking myself out. So I don't think I've ever had that happen before. That was a new experience. But I wanted to put suspense in because I absolutely love suspense. So all of these books do have an element of suspense.
All the Honeysuckle Island
All of
series.
the Honeysuckle Island series do. And I really just wanted to do something that was a little deeper. I wanted to stretch myself, and now I've kind of gotten back in that groove, so I'm okay. The second book, guys, the one that we're giving away today, it literally brought me to tears. The Fragile Truth. I think I cried for like 2 or 3 days. Like, I can't do this. What have I done? I've created this plot, and I had to. You know, it started with book 1, so I had to follow it through. And I'm like, it's too complicated. I can't do this. And so, but I was able to finally do it with lots of prayer, lots of persistence, and I felt okay about it.
Well, because in the middle of writing this series, you've transitioned into writing some rom-coms. So you're going from writing rom-coms, which are funny and light, to writing these suspense novels. So that's a big difference.
It is, and I originally did that because I wanted, my brain needed a break. I mean, I was always, these are they're so intricate, and I have to layer them, and it takes so much brain power, and they're longer, they take me longer to write. And so I'm like, okay, my brain needs a little break. And so for a little while, I've been alternating between the rom-com, and then I would go back to the suspense. And so it's kind of nice to do that sometimes, to give my brain a break. But now I'm really into this, and now I'm actually starting the next one in the Honeysuckle Island because the story is just waiting to be told, and I can't wait. So I'm just going ahead and doing that one next.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. So now why don't you read an excerpt from the book?
Okay, awesome. Thank you. I'm excited. So I don't know how many of you had a chance to read this yet. Let's see. And my Kindle's asleep here. So, okay. So let me tell you just a little bit about the background here. So Olivia, for those of you who don't know, you hear a little bit about her in book 3, and she lost her fiance. He was killed. Remember how I said, talking about the cop that was killed? Well, that was him. I mean, my version of the story of what happened. So this is her, and she has been reeling from that. And so anyway, she's in a hurry. She's on her way to a reception. Her family owns an art gallery, and this is a very important reception. So, okay. So Olivia's heart dropped when she looked in the rearview mirror. At the same instant she saw the flashes of light, she heard the wail of a siren. "What the heck?" Arden grumbled as she whipped around to look. "You're getting pulled over?" Her voice flew up an octave. "That's absurd! We don't have time for this!" "No, we don't," Olivia growled. This is the last thing she needed today. Her heart pounded out a fast beat. They needed to get to the gallery pronto. Even with them taking Arden, or rather Talon's speedboat, back to Honeysuckle Island, they would be cutting it close. They still had 2 more stops to make, the grocery store and bakery. Frustration tightened Olivia's gut as she turned on her blinker and maneuvered into the right lane. "Okay, take a deep breath and get a grip," she commanded herself. The cop stayed right on her tail. As soon as she was able, she pulled over to the shoulder of the road. "A ticket? How much would it cost?" Surely the cop wouldn't give her a ticket, considering her close association with the police department. "Why in the heck did he pull you over?" Arden grumbled. "You weren't speeding." "I know," Olivia spouted, feeling vindicated by Arden's assertion. They had passed through a school zone a mile or so back. Olivia had seen the sign at the last minute and slammed on her brakes to slow down. However, she was certain that she slowed down in time. Olivia watched in the rearview mirror as the cop got out. "Would you look at him?" Arden jeered. "Sunglasses and all. Who does he think he is? Tom Cruise?" Laughter slurped from her lips. "He even walks with a swagger." "Shh," Olivia warned, swatting Arden's leg. "We don't want to get on his bad side." Arden wore her family's influence like a magical suit of armor that made her impervious to the travail of normal people. Olivia's life wasn't nearly as charmed. She couldn't afford to be a diva. Her best hope for a quick resolution to this solution was to play it nice. Sparks flew from Arden's eyes. "I'll show that moron a bad side." Great. It was an officer Olivia didn't know. Why couldn't it have been Grady or Michael or even Ian? The officer was probably new. Now that she thought about it, Ian mentioned something about hiring a couple of officers. As he stepped up, Olivia rolled down the window and placed both hands on the steering wheel as Brent had taught her to do. The officer removed his sunglasses and tucked them into his shirt pocket. Olivia jerked, taken aback by the vividness of his deep blue eyes. A tidal wave of heat gushed over her cheeks as she took in his rugged features. She was mortified at the attraction that pinged through her. Why did he have to be so dang good looking? And why did he have to exude such a bad boy, reckless vibe that called to her inner soul? It didn't hurt that he filled out his cop uniform well with his cut biceps and masculine forearms. Great gravity, he was nice to look at. His gaze lingered on her a moment too long, and then he seemed to catch himself. "Good afternoon," he began in a brisk tone. "May I see your license and registration?" It happened again. Their eyes connecting sended all rational thoughts flying out the window. When a tiny smile tugged at a corner of the officer's mouth, Olivia found herself grinning back like a goober. His quirk of amusement gave her the jolt she needed to return to her senses. Good grief, she was acting like a moonstruck idiot. She'd always been a sucker for cops. Add in his stunning good looks and sense of arrogance, and she was a goner for sure. "Your license and registration," he prompted. She snapped out of her daze. No way could she get involved with another cop. Hadn't she had enough heartache over Brent to last her a lifetime? Danger followed cops, or rather cops followed danger. She owed it to Ryan and to herself to find a guy who had a stable, predictable job. What the freaky Frankenstein was she thinking? Here she was, contemplating a future or squelching any chance of a future with some guy who probably wasn't remotely interested in her. He was simply doing his job. The eye-locking thing was probably a figment of her imagination, proof that she was in desperate need of a good night's sleep. She was getting twitter-pated over nothing. Was the guy even single? She glanced at his ring finger and felt a curious blip of relief when she saw the naked strip of skin over that all-important finger. Of course, just because he wasn't wearing a ring didn't mean that he wasn't involved with someone. Sure, she stammered as she turned to find her purse. She glanced down at the floorboard and Arden's feet only to realize that her purse was in the back seat. She was twisting around to get it when Arden caught hold of her arm. "I've got this," Arden's voice rang out, both confident and indignant. Crumb! Arden was about to get her on her high horse. This was bound to end poorly. "Officer, do you have any idea who this is?" She looked at Olivia as she spoke. He raised an eyebrow in faint amusement. "A woman who was speeding in a school zone?" he quipped dryly. Olivia's jaw dropped. "I was not speeding. I slowed down." He didn't back down in the slightest. "When you saw my car. And for the record, you didn't slow down soon enough." "I never saw your car." Anger blanketed her, hot and furious. "I slowed down the instant I saw the sign. That sign should be displayed more prominently," she added defensively. He smirked. "If it had been a snake, it would have bitten you." "License and registration," he demanded, looking her in the eye. It went through Olivia's mind that the guy was a jerk. She should be outraged about the snake wisecrack, but right now she couldn't think straight. She was feeling things she never thought she'd feel again. The stir of ribbons through her stomach, the flush of warmth over her skin, the heady sizzle of energy pulsing through her like a fireball. "Fine," she spouted as she turned to get her purse. Placing it in her lap, she reached for her wallet and slid out her license. As she handed it over, her hand brushed against the cop's, rustling awareness through her. Okay, this idiotic attraction was out of control. She turned to Arden, her discomfort spewing out in irritation. "Well, don't just sit there like a ninny. Get the registration out of the glove box." "I most certainly will not," Arden harumphed as she glared at the cop. "Do you recognize her now?" Her voice held a checkmate tone. He looked down at the license. "Olivia Burkhart." Mirth zinged in his eyes as he looked at Olivia. "Afraid not." "Is he a blooming idiot?" Arden scoffed. "How could he not know you?" Olivia glanced at the cop, noting that his jaw had gone razor sharp. "He's new," she explained to Arden. Arden made a face. "Ah, that explains it. Listen, Officer Wet Behind the Ears." "Yates," he cut in, the corners of his jaw flicking. Oops, Arden was taking the condescension too far. Arden rushed on. "Officer Yates, trust me when I say that you don't want to give Olivia a ticket. Sheriff Russell will tan your hide." A hard amusement flicked in his eyes. "Is that so?" He looked at Olivia with a hint of challenge. "I'll take my chances." His voice took on a warning edge. "I'll ask one more time for the registration." Olivia was impressed and infuriated by the guy's torque. "Just get it," she grumbled to Arden. Time was ticking away. She glanced at the clock on the dash, desperation seeping through her. She needed at least 2 hours to get the food prepped, and she still had to get ready. "Fine," Arden huffed as she threw open the glove box and rummaged through it for several seconds before handing the registration to Olivia, who then handed it to the officer. "Hang tight while I call this in," Officer Yates said. "Don't say we didn't warn you," Arden chimed. She flashed him a hard smile. "When you call it in, be sure and tell them that you pulled over Olivia Burkhart. They'll love hearing that." He shot Arden a look of annoyance before turning his attention to Olivia. "Is she always such a pain?" The corners of Olivia's lips twitched, just when she's awake. This earned her a look of admiration from Officer Yates. "Way to throw me under the bus," Arden grumbled the second he left. "You were being a pill. Seriously? Officer Wet Behind the Ears?" "He is wet behind the ears," Arden fumed. "You should just drive off right now. What's he going to do?" Olivia's eyes flew open wide. "Arrest me!" Arden was taking the tough girl routine too far. Judging by how Officer Yates had locked eyes with her, Olivia suspected that he might have let her off with only a warning had Arden not goaded him. She grunted. "I'd like to see him try. Ian won't let him touch a hair on your head. After all you went through with Brent, this town owes you big time." Arden's voice rang with fury. "Brent gave his life in the call of duty. The least they can do is to treat his wife and child with respect." "Technically, Brent and I were never married," Olivia corrected, the all-too-familiar shame creeping over her. Her parents were God-fearing people. They had taught Olivia the sanctity of marriage. She had known it was wrong to have a physical relationship with Brent before marriage. When she got pregnant with Ryan, she and Brent planned to get married, but then he disappeared. Later, through Sadie's investigation, it was discovered that Brent had been murdered. Olivia knew from the moment Brent turned up missing that he was dead. Never would he have deserted her. Her soul had felt the absence of him in the world the moment he was shot. Ian, Callie, and the other police officers were like family to Olivia. Arden was right. Neither Ian nor the officers that she knew would dream of giving her a ticket. But this cocky new guy was trying to prove a point. It seemed to take forever for Officer Yates to return. A mea culpa smile spread over his lips as he handed Olivia back her license and registration. "Well, Miss Burkhart," he drawled, "it seems that you have some friends in high places. I stand corrected." "Told you," Arden snipped. Olivia half expected Officer Yates to react to Arden's surliness, but he kept his eyes riveted to her instead. He leaned down, resting his elbows on the side of the car. The heat flowing between them was as strong and real as an electric current. "So," he began, his eyes twinkling with mischief, "since I can't give you a ticket, it would seem that you owe me." For a second, Olivia wasn't sure if she heard him correctly. "Huh?" A crooked grin stole over his lips. "Have dinner with me." Her hand went up around her neck. "I hardly think that would be appropriate." "She'd love to," Arden interjected. Olivia's eyes bugged as she turned to Arden. "No, I wouldn't." Arden stilled her jaw. "Yes, you would. I saw how you've been looking at him." "How am I looking at him?" "Just like you saw your first Burberry bag." Arden trilled out a wicked chuckle. "Oh, wait, that would be me." She scrunched her nose. "For you, it would be your first set of paintbrushes." Olivia wanted to crawl under the floorboards. This whole situation was utterly humiliating. Officer Yates looked impressed. "You're an artist, huh?" "Nice," he drawled. "How about Friday night? 7 o'clock, he added, before Olivia could articulate a response. "It's a date," Arden said, with a cheeky grin. "I would say that Olivia should give you her address, but if you're worth your salt, officer, you would have already made a note of it when you checked your license." The sheepish grin on his face let Olivia know that Arden was right on the money. He winked at Olivia. "See you Friday." He slapped the side of the car with his palm and straightened to his full height. "I never agreed to a date," Olivia clarified. "Hey," Arden said sweetly, throwing Olivia a wicked grin. "Olivia's hosting a little reception for me tonight at the Seabird Gallery on Honeysuckle Island. You should come." "Arden," Olivia blustered, "he doesn't want to go to that." Arden can be so infuriating. While she meant well, Olivia didn't need her nosing around in her business. He looked thoughtful. "I suppose I could stop by after I get off work." "Perfect," Arden purred as she nudged Olivia. "All's well that ends well, see? He's not so wet behind the ears that he doesn't recognize a good thing when he sees it." Olivia cut her eyes at Arden, giving her a warning to cut out the shenanigans, but Arden only chuckled. She brought her hands together with a purposeful sigh. "Well, as much as we'd love to stay and chat, we'd better get going. We have a lot to do before the reception." "See you tonight," he said, a clear expression of promise in his eyes. "Officer Yates," Olivia croaked, "I don't think this is—" "It's Flynn." "Huh?" "Call me Flynn." "See you tonight, Olivia." Her name hung on his lips like a caress. Their eyes caught once again as he flashed a cocky grin that said, "You know you can't resist me." With that, he turned and strode away. Okay. I am so excited for y'all to read that. It's been so much fun to write. So Arden is a chasing. For those of you who have read the other books, you know that this centers a lot around the chasing family. And so she is Talon's younger sister, and she's also a New York Times bestselling author. And she writes romantic suspense. I couldn't resist putting that in there. So, and her story is actually the next one in To Still a Heart. So, okay, so let me talk a little bit about Flynn. What did you think about him? He was fun. He was fun to write. I really like him, and I love how, as it usually happens, here Olivia has vowed to never get involved with another cop. And then along comes Flynn, and so hence the dilemma. So that's a fun one, and you'll see Olivia warring within herself as the whole novel progresses. Of course, this is suspense, and it's very suspenseful. So a lot happens. This is only the beginning. So I hope y'all will continue to read it. So, okay. So I wanted to share a couple of the reviews. This has been,
do you want me to
yeah,
read
would you
those?
read them if you don't care? I actually love reading all the reviews, and I was so excited about some of the reviews that are coming in for this one.
All right, so this first one says, "Oh, I loved this one the best so far in the series. My heart was pounding with the suspense. Great story." That's from Robin Ribbit.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, Robin.
This is a great addition to the series. What started as a quick perusal ended up in me not being able to put the book down until I'd read it cover to cover. And that one's from Jillian.
Thank you, Jillian. Oh, I loved hearing that. That left me like walking on air.
All right, this one is from Bernadette. How do you say
Oh,
this?
let's see, Sinkowski. Bernie, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. She goes by Bernie, so.
All right, it says, "False Illusions is so good. You will love Flynn, Olivia, and the gothic feel to this remarkable romantic suspense tale. A couple of times I caught myself screaming at Olivia, 'No, don't!' Allow sufficient time to finish before starting to read, and you will not still be up after 2 a.m. like me. You will not be able to put this one down. This well-written tale has a diabolical villain, romance, intrigue, glamour, and glitz, all in Mrs. Youngblood's signature style."
Thank you, Bernie. I loved hearing that. Yeah, she had told me that she had stayed up late reading it.
And one more from Donna Campbell. It says, "This story is so good, I had to stay up all night to finish it."
Thank you, guys. I mean, that just is music to my heart because that's the goal, right? To get people so excited that they can't quit reading it. And sometimes it's hard for me to be a judge if it's suspenseful enough because I'm too close to it. So I was really excited to hear that.
So it sounds like give yourself plenty of time to read this one because you're going to want to stay up all night. Don't have an important event to get to the next day.
Yeah,
Or you'll be very tired.
So should we look at some more of the comments?
Yeah.
So let's see. Do you want to? Can you see them? So okay.
Yeah. All right. So it looks like we've got. Do you want to scroll up just a little bit, Austin? I think we missed a couple. Right there's good. Down a little bit. All right. So Cheryl says, "I'm a lifetime lover of the traditional whodunits. Think Agatha Christie."
I really like that. I don't know if y'all have watched any of the new Agatha Christie movies that they've come out with, but I just saw Death on the Nile and I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
All right, Diana Brown says, "Congratulations, I love the suspense books too, so thank you for supplying such great books to read."
You're very welcome, Diana. Thank you.
And then Nell Weiss said that I have watched all of your books that you have on YouTube.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. I'm so glad.
Yeah. Lynette Hall says, "Love it."
Hey, Lynette. Thank you for joining in.
And then Wendy, I'm not sure how to say your last name, Wendy.
Boydle. I think, Wendy, I hope we're pronouncing your name correctly. I think it's Boydle.
It says, "A man who knows what he wants and goes after it or her."
You know what? I really, really, really respect that about Flynn. Of course, you're going to see some interesting things between Olivia and Flynn in this one. There are lots of twists and turns, and Flynn is a man's man. I mean, he's not just going to sit around waiting for her to decide. So it's kind of an interesting. Anyway, I don't want to give too much away. But,
Yeah,
but their relationship is interesting.
Wendy also said, "So you stayed up all night to write it, and us to stay up to read it, following in your footsteps."
Oh, thank you. I never thought about it that way. It's interesting because I always try to plan so that I'm not doing these marathon writes, but I've come to realize that the way my brain works, that's just the way it happens. I mean, when I start a book, it literally takes me, I'm lucky if I can get 50 pages in a whole week. And then I just have to, when I'm in the zone and I'm finishing it, I just have to I literally just tune out everything else. My family knows this, right? There may or may not have been times where Jenny has come home from work and I'm still in my pajamas. So yeah. Then after I do finish, I feel like I feel like I've come off of this huge thing, where I have to take a week to recoup, so I can feel like a human again.
Well, you stay up till 2:45.
Yeah,
It'll take me a week to recoup from that.
that's true.
A lot of the reviews have said that it has a lot of that gothic element to it. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you were inspired to add that into your story?
Okay, so the Honeysuckle, I kind of told you a little bit about how it was inspired by Bald Head Island, and also there's a hotel on Honeysuckle Island, and that was inspired by the Hotel del Coronado, which is in San Diego. And so I kind of took two of my favorite places and combined them. But then a few months ago, my husband and I went on a trip with our youngest son Cameron and his wife Alani, and we went to this place called Carmel by the Sea, and I had never been there before. And we were standing up on Pebble Beach, and we were looking out, and it's this exclusive, beautiful place. And I looked over and saw this house, and it was just one of those moments to where this house called to me. I was just like, what kind of people live in this house, and what is their story? And I'm like, okay, this seals it. I have got to write about this. Yeah. And so that's how I it's interesting how stories come, but when they start coming and they germinate, it's just they almost take a life of their own. And I'm like, Olivia is very real to me, and so is Flynn. And so I just had to write their story.
Yeah.
Oh, and I was going to talk about the Gothic too.
Yes.
Okay, so I have always been a big fan of Gothic romance. When I was a little girl, I used to read all about the romances that took place on the moors. That was my favorite. I love the Bronte sisters. I know some people either love or hate Wuthering Heights. I think it's incredible. I think it's one of the best works ever written. Yes, it is dark, and Heathcliff is very twisted, and Kathy is too, but I really do love it. And I also like Jane Eyre. Wuthering Heights is my favorite. But Rebecca is also one of my favorites, by Daphne du Maurier. I think du Maurier is how you pronounce her last name. But I kind of thought about all of these elements when I was writing, and I wanted it to kind of take on that feeling, because as I was standing and looking at that house, that's how I felt. And I almost felt like I was in the middle of a Gothic novel. And it was kind of neat, because I don't think I consciously thought about it having Gothic undertones until reviewers started pointing it out. But it makes sense because I was thinking about Rebecca. And my favorite Daphne du Maurier book is My Cousin Rachel. I know that's a little bit lesser known one, but I love that one. If you haven't read it, guys, that one is a great one. It will keep you guessing until the very end. But so it was kind of fun to hear people saying that it had these Gothic elements. I'm like, oh, it makes sense. And it makes sense why I was so freaked out about the teddy bear. I haven't been able to look at poor Toasty the same since. So, yeah. Cindy, we got a comment from her. Cindy Rowland said, love these reviews. Thank you, Cindy. It's been so much fun. I love the reviews, too. It just makes all the hard work worthwhile. To know that your work is appreciated and enjoyed by people. That's what we live for as authors. So.
Yeah. All right. Why don't we talk about the questions that we have?
Yes, we have got a fun little thing that we were going to do. So I opened this up to my newsletter subscribers. But if you have questions, if you're not on my newsletter list, feel free to post your questions in the comment, and we'll answer those too. And then what we did is Jenna Lee is putting all of these in the Wheel of Names. Is what it's called.
Yes.
And so these are just random questions and comments that my readers have made, and I wanted to answer some of those. So.
All right, so this one comes from Megan G. Says, I love the fact that Jennifer's books are clean.
Thank you. It's funny because I was at a church event recently, and I ran into this lady that it's an acquaintance, and she knows that I write romance, and she kind of pulled me aside and she said, are you sometimes a little bit embarrassed for people to read your work since it's romance? And I said, no. And she looked kind of funny, and I said, no, I write clean and inspirational romance. And I really want to make sure that I always write something that I can be proud of, that I'm not embarrassed by. So, and I know that authors choose to write all different types of genres, so not trying to bag on other authors for what they write, but for me and what I want, that has always been a big deal to me. I like reading clean books.
Right.
And so
you want to put those out for other people.
Yes. So thank you. I'm really glad that was from
Megan.
Thank you, Megan. I'm glad that you appreciate that.
All right. This is a question from Brandy McGraw. Did any music inspire any of your books?
Okay, that's a really good question. And I was, let me think about that for a minute. I can't think of any right off the bat. My husband lives for music, and that's what he would think of first. If he were ever writing something, he probably would be inspired by that. I'm inspired more by moments. Words inspire me. I'll watch a movie, and even if it's something totally different than what I write, I'll think, oh wow, I really like how they did this, or I like this, or books. Other books inspire me. If I ever get to where I have a hard time and I feel like I'm having a writer's block, I'll go back and read some of my favorites, some of the classics. I studied literature in college, and so I love like all of the old classics. Like I said, I've read Wuthering Heights a lot, and Jane Eyre and all of those. And so there's another one, and I'm trying to remember who wrote this one, but it's Wide Sargasso Sea, and it's basically a takeoff after what happens after Jane Eyre, or what happened to the woman in Jane Eyre who is the crazy woman. So I kind of like that one too. That was an interesting perspective. But I do sometimes go back and think of music afterwards. But I can't honestly say that I've ever had a song to inspire one of my books.
Yeah. All right. This is another comment from Teresa Bertoli. I love the drama and suspense mingled with romance.
Oh, thank you. Me too. Me too. Yeah, that's what I love the most. I mean, when I read suspense, so it makes sense that I would like to write it.
All right. This one's from Linda Harold. It says, "Where do your ideas come from?"
Well, I kind of talked a little bit about that, but to answer that, Linda, they really come from everywhere. I mean, it's so interesting because I remember one time, the one that comes to mind is I wrote, and this one is very long. It's one of my favorite things I've ever written, but it's a redemption story, and it's very deep, and it can be hard to read, but it's called The Secret Song of the Ditch Lilies. And the way that one came about, I was driving down the back of the mountain where we lived, and I looked across this beautiful landscape, and I looked at Patrick and I said, "This is incredible. Have you ever seen anything so beautiful?" And he kind of smiled and said, "Well, the only thing I've seen is a bunch of trailers, pines, and power lines." And so that was what inspired. And at first it was called Trailers, Pines, and Power Lines. And then we're like, no one's going to read that. I wrote this one with my mom. And I called her up and said, "Mom, do you think we could write something that has trailers, pines, and power lines in it?" And she says, "Well, yeah, I'm sure we can." And so that's kind of how we started. But then we ended up renaming it. We were pitching that one to agents, and one of the agents wrote back and said, "Good luck with your trailer book." So we figured we better change the...
Yeah.
But really, sometimes I meet people, and I'm like, that she would make an awesome character, or parts of her. Usually it's composites of different people or different things. Or it can be, sometimes it's even an image. I'll see something and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my goodness, I have got to write that.
Yeah.
And I think it's like anything, the more you think about it, because I'm always thinking about it, the ideas just come. I've got probably more ideas than I can write in 10 lifetimes. It's just hard to figure out which one to focus on.
Right. All right. This will be our last question. This one is from Cheryl. Do you have certain hours you write, and do you do a daily word count or some other timing and or counting?
So most of my writer friends, they do like word count. They'll say, I wrote 10,000 words or 5,000 words or whatever it is. And I don't do that. I do mine by page count. And so when I first start a book, my goal is I'll say, okay, I have to get 50 pages a week, which is really not a ton. I can't remember how many thousand words that is, but then the second week I'm a little faster, and then the third week, like I said, I just fly through it, where I write pretty much, I'll write like 2/3 of it, sometimes even a third of it the last day. And so I do set aside certain times for writing. Like I make myself write until I get my word count, or my page count in.
Yeah.
And so, but that's usually how I do it. And I am very regimented. When I start a book, I write every day, except for, sometimes I'll take Saturdays off. Sometimes I work Saturdays. I always take Sunday off and rest and spend time with family and go to church. But yes, pretty much I'm pretty regimented. I feel like I have to be to get anything done.
Right. And to be able to keep the ideas flowing.
Yes, because when you pull away from it too long, it's like starting all over.
Yeah.
That's the hard part.
Yeah. All right. Should we draw for our 2 Amazon?
Yes, let's do.
So this
Drum
one
roll.
these are the 2 Fragile Truth.
Okay, and you know what?
Winners.
Okay, before you do that, let's read some of these because I said, let's see.
Yeah.
Okay, so Kim, let's see. Kim Cray says, I love Wuthering Heights too, but it wasn't love at first read for me. Ha ha, it took time. Yes, I can totally understand that because it is a hard one to read. And it doesn't have well, it kind of has a happy ending, but not really. It's kind of a semi-happy but cut off at the knees kind of thing. Cheryl said, I love reading those clean books. Thank you. Wendy says, I love when you get together with your group of authors and support each other in writing to health and diet. You know what? Amen, Wendy. I love that too. Sarah Gay recently at a writing retreat, she actually sat us all down and she was telling us all about her routine and her regimen, about how she eats healthy. And I've incorporated quite a bit of those things in that. Jana Lee has seen my kimchi. I actually love kimchi. She's not a big fan.
No,
I did.
Not the smell.
Yeah. So the smell is the smell really does get to you.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard. And but yes, I love how we support each other. I love it was so nice of my authors, some of my author friends to get on here today and to be able to chat and then who else was saying something? Let's see. Cheryl says, thank you. Obviously that works well for you.
The pages and how much you write.
It does.
Yeah.
Yes, it really does. I think I may be the only one who does the page count, but that just seems to be an easier way for me. Then I don't have to try to figure out how many words that is.
Right. All right. So we are drawing for the 2 ebooks, right? Yes, the 2 ebooks for Fragile Truth.
Okay.
So the first winner is...
Oh, Lynette Hall. Lynette, congratulations. I have to give a little shout out to Lynette. So I met her husband first. He was years ago, he was a missionary who came and served in Fort Payne, Alabama. And it was so much fun to get to know him, and Patrick and I were dating at the time. And so we both know him. And so then it was nice to meet Lynette. So it's nice to have Lynette. And since then, Lynette and I have developed a friendship, which has been wonderful.
All right. Second winner.
Okay, Cheryl. Cheryl is really lucky. Yes. Cheryl, I think you may be our luckiest watcher. She Cheryl Arsamon. And see, now I have actually pronounced her name correctly.
Yes.
Cheryl, I think you need to start entering some drawings because you really are. That's awesome. Congratulations. So.
All right. Oh, Cami Checkits just commented.
Cammy's on here. You guys know Cami Checkits. So we've had Cami on here, Kim Cray, we've had Christine Kersey, we've had Cindy Rowland Anderson, and Cami says, I can't wait to read False Illusions. I love your book. Thank you, Cami. I love Cami's books too. Actually, I read all of my author friends' books. I love them. I'm excited to read Kim's new one too. And Cindy writes a lot of Southern. And so it's fun to read hers because I can hear her voice when she's talking, and it's really cute. I can hear that little sassy voice of hers.
Yeah.
And then Christine Kersey, she actually writes a lot of suspense, and she writes the post-apocalyptic, which I love. Yeah. I've read all of hers, and of course Cammy's I scarf up every time. So it's fun. I mean, not only are they great friends, but they give me good stuff to read
yes.
too.
Yes. All right, this one is for the $10 Amazon gift card. Just a reminder, this one is just for newsletter subscribers. Okay. And I did drop that link in the chat if you are wanting to subscribe to Jennifer's newsletter. So our winner is...
Okay, it's Megan G. Megan, congratulations. Congratulations to all the winners. So the first 2 get ebook copies of The Fragile Truth. And if you already have that one, you can tell me if there's another book that you would like too. So you can let me know also. And make sure to email me at jennifer@jenniferyoungblood.com and remind me what you won. Sometimes I get a little bit loopy, especially trying to pull all of the things together. Yeah. So remind me what you've won and just let me know so that I can get your prize to you also.
Yeah. And then...
Oh, let's see. Okay, yep. Tanya says, I agree. I love Cammy's books. It's fun because I know that a lot of my readers read all of my friends' books, and so it's nice for us to be able to share this journey. Yeah. And I've actually done series with a lot of my author friends. Right now, we are doing, I've been working with an amazing narrator. Guys, I cannot wait for y'all to hear her, but she has been doing all of my Navy SEAL romances. And so this is a series that I did with Cammie, with Kim, with Cindy, and with Sarah Gay, and I'm trying to remember who else was in. Oh, Daniel Coleman, he did it also. He's a good friend of ours, and then Taylor Hart also wrote in this one. But it's been fun to hear those. They're super suspenseful also, and they'll be coming out on YouTube in the near future too.
And you also have a book trailer for this particular book, right? So if you still aren't sold on the book after all the things that we've talked about, Jennifer has a book trailer that Austin put together for the False Illusions book.
Yes, and I'm really, really excited. I mean, it really was amazing. When those reviews started coming in yesterday, I really felt like I was walking on air, because I just appreciate everyone being so supportive and kind, and I'm just really excited about y'all reading this one. I feel like this one is a little bit, I mean, it's totally different than False Identity, but I feel like that if you liked False Identity, you're going to really love this one too, because it does have a lot of those same elements in there.
Yeah, and if you haven't read False Identity, you can find that one on YouTube, also in Jennifer's video books that she has on her YouTube channel.
Yes, and it's been fun to put those up.
Yeah.
It's been fun to kind of comment with everybody about those.
False Illusions is available on Amazon, and if you haven't had a chance to read the other books in the Honeysuckle Island series, you can immerse yourself in those from Amazon as well. And I think
that might be a wrap. So yes. What was Austin?
I'm gonna play the trailer for it. I'm gonna watch it.
Oh, Austin said he'll play the trailer for False Illusions.
So,
let's do it. That's great. That's awesome. Yeah, one of these days we're going to have to get Austin in front of the camera. He's our wizard behind the camera.
That's true.
And it's been funny because some of my author friends will ask me about well, how do you do this on YouTube or this? And I'm like, oh, I don't have a clue. Austin does it all.
Yes. So before we show that, next week we'll be back for Chapter 7 of Kisses Over Candlelight.
Yes.
We're going to do that at 6 o'clock again.
Yes.
So 6 o'clock on.
Okay, this one is going to be a little bit different. Austin and I were talking today, and we realized Austin's like, oh, Janalee and I are going out of town. So
yes,
we
are.
They have a family event
Yes.
that they are going to, and so we are going to do something a little different. We're going to do a premiere. So here's what this means. It's going to run just like a live, so it will start at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, and I'm going to actually be on there chatting with you, watching it. So I don't know how I'm going to feel about watching myself on that. I'll probably be cringing the entire time. But the fun part is it'll be different for me because I'll actually be able to get on there and chat with you. And so we'll record it beforehand, but it'll run just like a live, and then I'll be on there chatting, and I think we can still give away prizes and stuff like that. We'll see. I'll have to get with Austin about that and see. But I'll be definitely be reading Chapter 7 of Kisses Over Candlelight. So.
Yeah.
And that one's getting good. We're getting to some fun parts there, too. So that one's good.
All right. So when you play this, Austin, is it going to, will it come back to us, or should we tell them goodbye before you play that? All right.
Okay. Austin says just say our goodbyes so that we can we can end. So, okay.
Don't sound so fatalistic.
We'll say goodbye until next time, right?
Yes.
Let's see. Local contributor says Austin and Janalee are amazing. Amen. You are amazing. I love doing these with Janalee. She's much better on camera than I am. I look at her and I'm like, I want to be just like Janalee.
Because I taught online for 3 months.
It's true, and she never gets ruffled. She's calm and collected, and she's always reminding me, okay, remember to do this, and so that she's amazing. Yeah. And so between her and Austin, they've got me covered. So Lynette says, love listening to your books on YouTube. Thank you. You're very welcome. I'm just grateful that y'all enjoy it. It's been fun for me too. And we're going to keep releasing them too. So like I said, the Navy SEALs are coming in the very near future. Yes, they're coming up next, and those are fun. that I told Jenna Lee, that's been the only time that I have ever, I was listening to The Reckless Warrior, and the narrator was doing it, and I'll talk a little bit about her as we get to that point, you know, when those come out, but it's been the only time where I found myself, my heart was pounding, and I was like, oh no, what's going to happen? And then I had to laugh because I'm like, well, I wrote it. I know what's going to happen. But she got me so into the story that I forgot for a second, just for a split second. And I was wanting to know what was going to happen. So I think y'all are going to really enjoy it.
Yeah. So those are coming soon. But for now,
yeah,
we'll play the trailer for False Illusions.
And thank you for joining us, guys. We'll see you next week. Is he the answer to her troubles, or an intoxicating illusion that could turn deadly? Single mom Olivia Burkhart struggles to rebuild her life after the murder of her fiancé, Brent Allen, a deputy on Honeysuckle Island. She vows to never get involved with another cop, but then Flynn Yates enters her life with his playful smile and penetrating blue eyes. As Olivia tries to come to grips with her feelings for Flynn, life delivers hard blows that resurface her fears with a vengeance. Fate gives her the chance to work 6 weeks at an exclusive art gallery in the charming town of Carmel by the Sea. Olivia catches the eye of world-renowned artist Xavier Kipling, a brooding and handsome widower, and soon finds herself drawn into a sophisticated world of wealth beyond her imagination. A strange painting gives way to unsettling events, making Olivia question whether her aching heart can discern between illusion and reality. Is the Kipling mansion an idyllic haven, or a hiding place for deadly secrets?